Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and looking through some 9-year-old footage from the expedition to Madagascar that I was part of. 9 years is a long time. As we approach 10 years from that first expedition, I am definitely contemplating going back. I really would love to. There was so much that it felt like we left undone. And in particular, the one river that I want us to focus in on today, the ivondro, spelt ivondro, don't ask, was a river that I feel we could have done better. There are lessons both technical in terms of my paddling that I would love to explore in this video today, and tactical in terms of how we as a team and I individually, psychologically, approached that 9-day, as it turned out to be, river. So without further ado, let's dive into the footage and take a look. So here we are, Africa, and let's zoom our way in, find Madagascar, and this is the river we're talking about, the ivondro. It's located on the eastern escarpment of Madagascar, near to Tamatave, Tomasina, depending on which area you're looking at. And the put-in is near to a town called Didi, up in a national forest. Now, this is the first thing of note, the first thing that I would change if we were to go and do this river again. And that is, you start in a national park, protected land, and particular permits are required for this land, for accessing it if you are not someone who indigenously lives there. We had done no research and did not know that. So we entered that region and were allowed in, and then subsequently were chased by the park ranger police as we were seeking to get onto the river, and that caused us a bit of rush, and it was the start of a few issues in terms of us leaving gear behind. So the first thing I would change would be do the research, if necessary, get the correct permits, and hopefully that would make things smoother for round 2. The other thing that some of this driving in footage might show you is roads are not common in Madagascar, at least not tarmac ones. So 4x4s utterly essential, and time of year is important. We, I think, were probably too late when we went previously to the ivondro. I think we would have been better off had we been perhaps half a month to a month earlier, particularly in terms of water levels. A lot of the rapids, as you'll see, that we encountered were just a little bit on the low side and therefore unrunnable. And that little bit earlier in the season, closer to the runoff of the wet season, might have helped. Conversely, it might have made journeying to the river even harder, if not impossible. As you can see, so many of the roads are just dirt tracks, and the wetter they get, the harder it is to travel. It's a compromise. I've seen a lot of folks recently seem to have been going to Madagascar in the autumn, and that seems to have been paying off for people, so perhaps that is the time to go. As we start getting into some of the actual paddling footage, the technical point that immediately pings a slight red flag for me is how narrow my hand grip on the paddle shaft is. You can see that so often, especially when we come to some of the headcam footage, you can see that this narrow grip prevents me from effectively gripping the water and having any meaningful leverage. And so the first technical point, and something that I'm glad has changed about my paddling, is my hands have come wider. The second technical point, which is related to the first, is lack of rotation. You watch a lot of this old footage and my torso is very static, and I'm basically just using my arms a lot of the time to drive the boat around. Now, in part, that is a psychological thing, as well as being physiological. The psychological aspect, in part, comes down to we're out in the middle of nowhere. No one's ever run this rapid before. No one's ever run this river before. My body is responding to the fear stimulus, closing down, crunching in, becoming more rigid. So it is understandable, but just because it's understandable doesn't mean that it's positive. And if anything, if we're in those environments where the fear stimuli are coming in, those are precisely the environments, probably, where we most need our technical paddling to be as close to the good template as we can possibly get it. So that would be another thing that I continue to work on, but I'm grateful has changed quite significantly since this footage. If you're enjoying this commentary and you would love to see more of this style of video, then please let me know in the comments below, and perhaps also let me know where in the world would you love to do an expedition. Let me know in the comments and I'll look forward to reading some of those. If you're here for the first time and you're enjoying it, then please do consider subscribing, and remember to ding that notification bell so that you know when I've got new videos coming out. Likewise, please do drop a like down below and share this wherever you feel comfortable. Thank you so much. Another tactical point to learn from this river, though I do think that I would love to go back and try this exact river again, is that when you're on an expedition, especially when it's so remote as this was, looking at the gradient is really important. There was a section in the centre of the Ivondro, a 7-kilometre gorge, that was upwards of 100 metres of gradient drop per kilometre. That's quite a lot. In some rivers, that could be fine, depending on their geology. You might find that that just creates beautiful pool drop, teacups all the way down. And that gradient would very quickly be swallowed up in that sort of style, and that would be absolutely fine. The style that we had was jumbled messes of boulders and large waterfalls that landed on more jumbled mess. And the result of that is hard work. It means a lot of portaging, and portaging that involves abseils, rope work, and lots of tricky manoeuvring on very slick, slippery rock. Stunning places to be, beautiful to look at, but very, very tricky to manoeuvre around. So that is a lesson to learn for the future. Both gradient and geology need to be things that are really carefully thought about if you're planning a first descent, because otherwise you will end up doing quite a bit of walking. The final point I'd like to make is one about psychology. If you're doing an expedition like this, then you need to be surrounded by people who are going to be able to laugh their way through frustrations and help you to persevere when you're really not feeling it. I'm very grateful for the team that we had in 2015. Every single one of these guys was so good at boosting morale and keeping us going, which on this particular river, as you will hear in just a second, was absolutely necessary. I'll let the footage speak for itself.
Slept in a puddle last night.
This is day 5 and it has rained continuously pretty much for 5 days.
Everything is wet.
Everything.
Everything is wet. And we've been cold for 5 days.
This is a typical British camper right there. As typical as they go.
We're gonna
Currently waiting out the rain.
Mummy and have hot chocolate because that's what my childhood has taught me to do in this situation.
So our original ambition of 8 days maximum to complete the river is now 8 days to complete the river. Probably, maybe 7 if we're lucky, but probably 8.
Not even to complete it, just to get to that town.
Just to get to the...
But we'll... Yeah.
Will be grand.
Yeah.
She'll be grand.
Be grand. Found some awesome whitewater.
Yeah, there's been some really good whitewater.
rapids.
Can't believe no one's ever done this with this being in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I know, it's weird,
It's
isn't it?
ridiculous.
I think people would like it and come here often.